Thinking about inverse functions. The inverse, so one way to think of a function, this function in particular, is that we have y in terms of x. So I'm actually going to write my dependent variable as y, and I have y equals x plus 2. So this is a function of y described or in terms of x. And what does that mean? Well, think about it. Your function will give you an output y based on your input x. You're going to do something with x and you're going to spit back out y. What's the inverse of that? Well, the inverse of that would simply be x in terms of y. In terms of y. That would be the inverse. And so in order to get that, what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to want to have x equals something in terms of y. So essentially my process to go from one to the other, I'm going to have to solve for x, which is something that we're used to, right? All we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, what does x equal? What is x in terms of y? And so what we'll do in solving for x is we'll get everything else to the other side and we'll have some function with y in it. So the first thing that I want to do is it's a very simple step. I'm just going to subtract 2. And we'll notice that when I do that, I'm going to end up with x equals y minus 2. There it is. And so all my inverse function is in this case is y minus 2. So the inverse of y equals x plus 2 is going to be x equals y minus 2. And this will allow you now to plug in y values and find the x value. So we we'll define this as f inverse, f to the negative 1, of, and you can use y as your input. Your y is now your input. It's going to be some function in terms of y, and it's going to be y minus 2. So now you're thinking about your inverse. F inverse is an x value that you get by plugging in a y value. So it can be helpful when you'd like to switch the variable which you are going to find out. So maybe y represents something like distance and x represents something like time, and you would like to, instead of plugging in a time to find the distance, you'd like to plug in a distance to find the time. The inverse here can allow you to do that.